Away from publicity, Mr. Robin! And he's got a nice dull shirt on this evening. The big party was last week, Robin.
He's going to show you his press cuttings. First of all, I do have to make an apology, specifically to Neil and Alice. My flies are done up tonight.
Well done!
As you know, the Serpentine veterans actually managed to swim the channel this summer. We arrived not an hour before my 70th birthday. I was very touched when I got back to actually get quite a lot of presents for people congratulating me. And one of them was a book called The Book of Senior Moments. And there was one that I thought was particularly relevant to the assembled gathering here. And I'd just like to read it to you very briefly. It says, "Never, ever, under any circumstances, allow yourself to be photographed." An unflattering snapshot can set your self-esteem back several centuries. What I thought I'd do, since the Symphonia of Serpentine was unable to perform this year, what I thought I might do was to read to you a short extract from The Art of Swimming by Captain Webb, who, as we all know, was the first man to swim the Channel. And this is actually the last hour of his swim, which was in 1876, was it, Nick?
75. August 24th.
1875. And it took him 22 hours.
Sad.
Will your reading take 22 hours?
I've shortened it down to about 35 minutes. So there will be a break in the middle. 9 a.m. The wind had unfortunately very much increased. So much so indeed that it occasionally washed over the little boats in which we were seated. At this moment there was but one opinion, and that was that he had no chance. The tide sweeps round Cape Greeney Point and bears away from the shore, and some of us have witnessed that. 10 a.m. Webb, fearfully exhausted, still toiled on, but was, if anything, farther from the shore at 10 o'clock than he was at 9. His hands now began to drop and fingers open, a bad sign, and he barely made any way at all. We had, however, during this hour drifted till we were directly off Calais Pier. A boat belonging to the Royal Mail Packet Service put off, and very useful indeed it was, as it got to windward of Webb and acted as a sort of breakwater. Webb himself was very weak and could barely do more than keep himself up. His hands seemed to drop, and his legs were so weak that he could barely bring them together at the end of each stroke. He was doing breaststroke. By 10 o'clock, however, the tide had become slack. By watching the head of the pier, we could see that at last Webb was drawing slowly into shore. Here, Baker, no relation to Sam, plunged in and swam by his side through the waves, which were crested with what is known as horses' heads. We sounded and found that we were in 5 fathoms of water, that's 30 feet. And by 10:15, we could not have been more than 200 yards from shore, but Webb was barely keeping afloat. It was now or never, 12 strokes a minute, and scarcely that. 10:20 a.m. The excitement was intense. A crowd had gathered on the sands near the pier. The men in the mail boat and lugger cheered till they were hoarse. 10:30. It now became apparent that Webb would do it. We were within 100 yards of the shore. The men on the mail boat struck up Rule Britannia, and 2 of them stripped off their clothes to be ready to help. 10:37. Webb, whose face was encrusted with salt, sounded, but failed to touch land and had some little difficulty in regaining his position. Mr. Ward, Webb's cousin, had taken off his coat and boots, but fortunately there was no occasion for him to plunge in. Webb's face was a strange mixture of red and white, and there was a deep red line across the back of his neck from having kept his head back so long. 10:41. A ringing shout! Webb, who feared to sound before, had touched ground in about 3 feet of water and tries to stand up, but falls heavily forward. In a second, the 2 men from the mailboat are by his side and each take his arm. They afterwards say he felt like a huge lump of cold tallow from the grease. They assist him to shore, where an open trap is waiting, and Webb, rolled in a rug, is driven off to the Paris Hotel, Calais.
Thank you, Robbie. You can tell it's a new day because he's got big tea bags under his eyes. My God, he's got a trumpet. Watch out.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Sam. Just 2 quick carols, so I hope you'll all drown me out by singing. Yeah, the first one, slightly soft and melancholy, so I think just, hum along. That's that. And then the second one, my wonderful assistant will hand out some words. Men sing where it says men, and sing where it says women. I'll do a three-bar intro.
How many kids? 1,300.
Poor Bill. I knew him, Nick. A fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne our mirth upon his back 1,000 times. And yet, how my gorge rises at it. Here hung those lips that have laughed I know not how oft. Where be your jibes now, your gambols, your songs, your flashes of merriment that were wont to set the table on a roar? Not one now to mock your own grinning? Quite chop fallen. Get thee now to my lady's chamber, and tell her, let her paint an inch thick. To this favour she must come. Make her laugh at that. Prithee, Sakura, tell me one thing. Dost thou think Alan looks of this fashion in the earth? And smells so? Ha! To what base uses we may return, Saundra? Why may not imagination trace the noble dust of Titmus till he find it closing up a bunghole? As thus, Alan died, Alan was buried, Alan returneth into dust. Dust is earth, of earth we make loam. And why of that loam whereto he was converted might they not stop a beer barrel? Imperious Titmus, dead and turned to clay, might stop a hole to keep the wind away. Oh, that earth, which kept the Serps in awe, might patch a wall and expel the winter's flaw.
Bravo.